Well, hello everybody. Recently I put together my Martian III quad and I used a couple of bits and pieces that I hadn't used before, so I thought I might just give you my little review of what I thought about them. Sometimes people say, what ESC should I put in a quad, what VTX should I put in a quad? I have to say I don't know. There's so many out there and lots of them are really good. There's almost too many to choose from, but rather than just say don't know, I thought I'd say, look, this is what I used on this particular build and this is what I think of it. And then so perhaps if you're noticing these and you're wondering if anybody's ever used them, here, look, I've used them and this is what I think of them. So my idea here was to put a slightly different sort of frame together. My previous quads have all been sort of H's, so I thought I'd go with an X and an underslung battery. Battery goes underneath. This isn't a true X, it's kind of stretched, so it's squashed this way and comes out this way. But slightly different from the norm, and I was just got interested to do it. I did actually put together a sort of 3-part build thing for this, where I put on my blog. People that are interested to see the real detail of how this goes together, I'll try and put a thing here. What they call it? I don't know what it's called. A note thing, a clicky thing you can click on if you want to look at. So starting off, the frame is the Martian III. Came from Banggood. It is really strong. 4mm arms and you can't even bend it. A few other things I like. These standoffs are textured. So you know when you're trying to screw stuff in and it slips and you have to get a pair of pliers around it and it all scrapes off. These ones you can really hold on to very well and do screws up, which I thought was just a nice touch. The quad came with a couple of nice little things. One was the hole to put an antenna through, which is really handy. You don't have to drill one or have one coming out the back where it gets smashed off. Obviously impacts to that means it just might break something there, but it's not going to hit the VTX. I also like that it came with this PDB, this red PDB here, which I hope you can see, and it also came with this XT60, which is downward facing because obviously the battery's underneath. And sort of brings me on about the wiring. So the PDB is just that. It doesn't give you any sort of regulated voltage. It's just literally voltage comes in and all pluses go one way, minuses go the other. So what I chose is an Omnibus F3 board to run it, because what an Omnibus F3 board will do, or an F4, I chose an F3 because I didn't need an F4 and an F3 was really cheap. It will take your battery voltage and it will run the board, so instantly I didn't need to create any sort of 5V thing, as the Omnibus produces its own 5V power supply. Although that said, we don't actually need any 5V going to anything, and the reason is because the other new thing I used, because I thought I'd like the idea of the stack. When you've got this much more compact space over like an H, which is generally longer, the sort of stack idea appealed to me. So the VTX I went with, I'd not heard of before, but I thought, you know, I'll try it, what the hell. It's called a Rush VTX, and it sits in the top of here. And what is really nice about this is where I've got nothing on the top, it's got these open sections. So I can see the LED on there, or the LCD display showing numbers. It's also got the power output, which goes 25, 200, 500. And to change things, I can change the power output, I can change the channel, and I can change the band with these two buttons that are on the side, which is a great idea. Often buttons are sort of on the middle and you can't get something in, you have to poke stuff through. But being on the side here, easy access. ESC wise, I chose something new again. Now I just happen to have these DYS Fire 2600 kV motors. These are 2606, these are monsters, lying around with nothing to use them for. The problem with 2600 kV motors for me is the amount of amps they pull. You put a 3-bladed prop on and they will pull 35 amps plus. That's part of the reason I've got these little Dal 2-bladed props. Also I didn't have any other suitable 3-bladed props. But what I did is I got some Race Star 28 amps, these little speed controllers. What really attracted me towards these is, I mean, they're all shrink wrap now and got the wires on, but they come bare. If you've ever used Kiss ESCs, you'll be quite familiar with this concept, which is a great idea. They just come as ESCs with solder pads, and you solder your motor wires on where you want to, you solder your power wires on, and then you solder your signal cable on. It means you don't have to cut shrink wrap back, you don't have to cut the cables off or desolder stuff. You just put the bits on with the right length, and it comes with spare bits of cable and shrink wrap and even these little labels. And then you just join it all up, shrink wrap it over, and your cables are just the right size and it's all much neater. I mean, I could have gone for one in a stack, but I saw these, I thought they were quite nice. They're running D-Shot 600, which is nice. To be quite honest, I don't notice any real difference between running D-Shot 600 and something like One-Shot 125. But what I do like about it is running D-Shot, you no longer have to do ESC calibration. And there does seem to be more range. There feels like there's more resolution on the stick. So I'm noticing that they'll spin up slower and carry on. Before, previously it was like they'd sort of judder a bit and then they'd hit the actual thing where they'd start moving. So I quite like those, just on the convenience factor. And of course, BL-HeliS means you don't have to worry about the wiring. You just go into the Chrome app and you reverse the motors if you want to. With the Rush as well, it's designed to take battery input. And I was always a little bit worried about, you know, how do VTXs cope giving them the full power. But as this one looked like it was thought about, and I had a look at the regulators on there and they looked more beefier than the ones on the Omnibus, I thought, let's try that. Let's put the full voltage through on the battery, and then it puts out a 5-volt output to run your camera. So this is running this little Microswift 2.1mm lens, which I didn't like at first, but I really like now because I can angle up, I can go really quick, and I can still, as I'm coming into landing, see the ground details because the angle is so wide. And that has given a really nice picture, a zero interference, so it's working really nicely between the Omnibus and the Rush VTX. Now in terms of downsides, the Rush I'm loving, and it comes with various pigtails. So I've got this pigtail adapter going out to here where I've got my skew attached, and the whole thing is running at the back here. There is a tiny XM Plus receiver flashed with the firmware that provides you with RSSI on channel 8. I've got this set up, so everything's coming through. I'm liking the way my OSD is set up. That's all good. The downside of the Rush thing is, well, it depends. For me, I've kind of accepted channels are called A, B, is it E? F and R for, like, you know, race, immersions on F, and they have F1, F2, etc, etc. The Rush, for some reason, has decided it's going to change that, and for that reason I actually carry about this, which is this little guide to what you've got. So you press the band button and it just goes 1 to 6 instead of what I thought A, B, C, E, F, R, and etc. And then each channel, as you select it, instead of saying, well, as you select it, it go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But once you're on it, what it does, it scrolls across your actual frequency. So I'm on F1, which is, it will just scroll across there 5740 on band 5, which to me doesn't seem as friendly as F1. At the same time though, I do notice that some people are showing in their OSDs their specific frequency they're on. So maybe some people are just shouting, I'm on this frequency, and no, other people need to be like 20, 30 megahertz upwards or more. But that's the downside for me. It's also not going to suit people that don't like having their props in view. I mean, that's partly due to the fact it's a very wide angle lens, so these props come in. And the other fact is, of course, you literally haven't got much clearance there between the props and the camera. However, I really like the way this flies. It's I've tried to set up a little bit different than my other quads. I've tried to think, I want this flying more like my little Aurora does. I've tried to figure out what it needs to do to keep really quite nimble. Part of which is being able to make these really tight turns means you've got to turn like that, so your power goes forwards instead of upwards. And because of that, I've put no HD camera on here. Now that's going to get resolved soon, but in a slightly different way than you might think. So right now the 2.1 lens for the Micro Swift is on there. What I've also got here is a Micro Swift with a 2.3mm lens in. Now the idea was I was going to go along with the 2.1mm, swap this over, check it on the 2.3mm, but as soon as I put the 2.3mm on, I had this shaking stuff and I couldn't figure out what it was. RunCam told me that there was a problem with the initial 2.3 lenses, so they're sending me another one. So as soon as that gets there, I'll do the comparison. And after that point, I've got this to put on there. This is a RunCam split, and it's obviously an HD and FPV camera which has room to fit in the space below the VTX there, and will give my live and HD recording picture. Means I still have this for free. So that's going to be coming up soon. But yeah, meantime, I just wanted to say I've been using these components. I put them together and they seem to fly really nicely. So if you were looking for any reviews of any of the bits and pieces there, have a look at my footage. You'll see this throughout a couple of previous videos. I did one about the 2.1mm lens in there where there's a bit of flight footage. But yeah, it seems pretty smooth and it's pretty strong, and everything on it's fairly cheap. So I don't really worry about slamming it into things because, I mean, this is hard to break, but the whole frame was pennies really in comparison to stuff. The only thing I would change out of this are the motors. I would get some more sensible motors. 2300 kV is plenty, and then I could use different props if I wanted to. But that's just what I had lying around. Plus the purple goes. It's colour coordinated. Anyway, there you go. That's my quick review of some bits and pieces I've put on this and my quad. Happy flying, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.